All right. Um, I understand that this particular conference has been sponsored by Scrum Alliance, and they called me up today morning. Don't be surprised. They called me up today morning and they said, Ajay, we understand that you're speaking at this conference. We would like you to do some activity for us. And I told them, okay, fair enough, I'll do that. And they first asked me to identify how many of you are certified. CSM, PSM, PSPO, CSPO, all of that. Right. So Janki, right? Okay. So I'm going to start my presentation, after the heavy lunch, and I saw a big queue across the pastry. It was like a never-ending queue. Do you realize that the lunch was served at 12:16? Supposed to be at 12 o'clock, we missed the deadline. You will realize what happens when you miss definition of done. So I'm going to connect everything that happens with you and me in our life. I'm going to be connecting here. So get ready. I'm going to start with a quiz. And this quiz is going to be auto-running. Auto-running meaning after every 15 seconds, the answer will come up. But try to answer it for yourself and check yourself, because, as I said, Scrum Alliance called me up to figure out that when people are certified in Agile, are they really certified in Agile? So let's see that. That's your first question. It goes in 15 seconds, so the answer was B. I don't know how many of you didn't even get a chance to read it because you are struggling here and there. So focus. Agile requires you to focus. It is going to test your knowledge and myths. The last one is the most interesting one. The next question. And that's the last question. And I'm sure you chose one of it, right? Because we are all used to the multiple choice question, always one has to be right. But do remember there are two types of multiple choice. One that comes with a radio button and one that comes with a checkbox. How we make assumptions in our life that only one answer has to be right. And that is where you and I have trouble. So I assume that because you are in an Agile conference and you have not come here to have the great lunch that was served, I believe all of you are doing some kind of Agile in your life. Yeah? Can't hear? Okay. How many of you believe that your sprints get completed on time? I know I'm asking dirty questions. I know. I can't help it. That's me. That's how Ajay Kabra is. Nobody? So all your sprints are on time? Yes, no? Okay. How many of you believe that your stories get spilled over? Sometimes. That sometimes if you ask the percentage, it would be 99%. I guarantee all of this. How many of you identify that after you start the story, after you start the work, you realize, guess what? I don't know what the story is supposed to do. All your smiles are telling me that everything is happening, right? So where is the certification helping us? Certification only helps you to post it on the LinkedIn. And then every 10 minutes you're going and seeing how many likes have come. We are of that category, can't help it. So coming down to this, what I want to help you understand is, my talk today is going to be about two concepts, one called definition of ready. We'll worry whether it's an end pattern or not. And then we'll talk about something on definitions of done. Something that you and I have read it, Scrum Guide talks about it, but not very well explained. So let's try and throw some light around it. So according to me, Agile is your mindset, which everyone knows. Someone in the emotional intelligence was talking about those 4 manifesto ideas. So they are described by 4 values, supported by 12 principles. But the most interesting part about Agile is that it has unlimited number of practices. How many of you are aware? Now the question is user story a part of Scrum? The answer is yes, no, maybe. Or you say, how do I care? Yes, no. Maybe you have not read the Scrum guide. The answer has to be yes or no. So do you think user story is a part of Scrum guide? The word user story does not even exist in Scrum guide. But we all use it. So does this mean that we are anti-pattern? I don't know. I honestly don't know. So that's what I said. There are unlimited number of practices that happen in the Agile world. And unfortunately, that 14 pages of Scrum guide has not been able to define all of it. So some of the things that I'm going to talk, a lot of pure Agilist guys will say, well, that's anti-pattern. But how many of you do planning poker? That 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, you all do, right? Or it is still finger in the air exercise of estimation. That's also okay. Nothing wrong. That's an estimation technique. One of the estimation techniques is you flip a coin. If it comes heads, 2 days. If it comes tails, 3 days. It works. That's an estimation technique. Nothing wrong. So my question is, let's talk and get through this. So what is definition of ready? The most important point is definition of ready as a concept is not defined in the Scrum guide. And just because it's not defined in the Scrum guide, does it become an anti-pattern? And if you actually notice, Scrum guide doesn't define it, but the industry heavily uses it. For that matter, even planning poker is not defined by Scrum guide. But we all use it. So user stories are not defined by Scrum guide, but we all use it. So what I'm trying to tell you is Scrum guide is only a reference point. It is not the Bible of the game. Though a lot of pure Agilist guys will disagree with me. So having a DOR, that is definition of ready in your project, is that an anti-pattern? For me, the answer is no. So what is a DOR? Who is responsible for it? When it should be used? Where it is implemented? Who is going to use it? Now do remember, definition of ready, consider it as an entry criteria. If you are entering a sprint, then ensure that your definition of ready is there and it is working. So the challenges that you have, what I have to do in this particular story, will no longer be existing. I'll tell you honestly, believe me, if you implement these 2 practices, definition of ready and definition of done, in the true spirit of the game, your Agile will be successful. Put the hand on your heart and tell me how many times are you in a position to prove it to me that my story met the definition of done. Put the hand on your heart. You don't have to, you can lie to everyone except yourself. And the day you start lying to yourself and you are able to convince yourself, you're the most dangerous person on this earth. Huh? So that's what I'm trying to help you understand. So how are we going to implement it? Well, Scrum focuses on creating working agreements within the team. So definition of ready could be a working agreement. Can we create our working agreement with a product owner also? Remember, we always talked about a working agreement within the team. We always talk team is the development team. But what about the working agreement between the development team and the product owner? So I need that, and that particular stuff would be your definition of ready and definition of done. One acting as an entry criteria and one acting as an exit criteria. So implement your definition of ready via the working agreements with your product owner. I've listened and I've seen it and I've experienced it a number of times that when the story is there and you're asking 3 questions to the product owner, guess what, if that happens, then what we have to do? And the answer is, that's a great question. You get started, I'll give you the answer tomorrow. You're expecting me to do an estimation of a particular requirement where the requirement is not complete, where the requirement is not correct, where the requirement has ambiguity, where requirement has TBD, to be defined, and you're still expecting me to give you an estimate. And now what happens? Let's say I give an estimate. And let's say, do remember, Scrum doesn't say to do estimates in planning book or story points. You can do estimates the way you want it. So let's say I'm the guy who does estimates in effort. So I go and tell the product owner, this is going to take 24 hours. Okay, no problem. Now remember, I still have a question to be answered. 3 days later, the product owner comes and throws the answer to me, and guess what? It creates a tsunami. The whole concept has changed. And now I go and tell the product owner, it's no longer 24 hours, it's going to be 72 hours. Now what happens? You're unproductive. You don't know how to work. And guess what? Your appraisal is around the corner. Now you know what happens. All right, moving on, Amit. All right, so talk about definition of done. Some interesting concepts. Why do we need it? Where do we need it? Who needs it? When do we need it? How do we define it? And for whom do we define it? So these are some of the questions that you and I should be answering ourselves. So let's go and explore this theory of definition of done a little more. So definition done as per scrum.org, and by the way, in scrum.org, there is a character called Ken Schwaber, the co-creator of Scrum Guide. Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, two characters created. Ken Schwaber created this guy called scrum.org, and he says it's a tool for bringing transparency to the work of a Scrum, that the work that the Scrum team is performing. It's all about creating the transparency. Transparency to all the related relevant stakeholders as needed, as required in this game. So going on. So definition of done, can I consider that to be a quality standard? Yes, it is supposed to be a quality standard of your product. Meeting the definition of done creates a better quality visibility about your product, of how your product is meeting the quality. It is a list of activities for producing a potential shippable product increment. Potential shippable product increment. Anything else? Nothing more. These two things are more than sufficient. Transparency, quality standard, a list of things that I have to do. So I always don't take pictures. I'll give you the presentation, sir. Don't take pictures. Focus. Because when you take pictures, you are focusing on the picture quality, not on Ajay Kabra. All right. So all that I'm trying to help you understand is, think about the definition of done, and don't define a greatest definition of done in sprint 1. Even if you define 2 activities in definition of done in the first sprint, that's good enough. Your definition of done has to mature as you go forward. Every sprint, every retrospective should be an event where you are updating, upgrading, and modifying your definition of done to become better as you go forward. So think about it as we go forward. Moving on. So definition of done, as I said, is a simple list of activities which you and I every time do, like writing the code, coding comments, unit testing, integration testing, release notes, design document. Now the most important part of the definition of done is that anything and everything that you write in the definition of done should be verifiable and demoable. In short, you should be in a position to prove to me that I have done my integration testing. You should be in a position to give me evidence that the integration testing has been performed, the code reviews have been performed, unit testing has been performed. Now, how many of you are developers here? I know Mansoor asked this question. And how many of you write unit test cases? Don't tell me what is that. Because that's normal answer that I get. And can you prove that you executed the unit test cases? Now, no hands will go up. Now, that is exactly what I'm saying. If you are saying that I'm doing unit testing, then show it to me that you have executed the unit test cases. Show me your log, show me your report, show me your bugs. Now the most interesting part is, let's say I write a particular piece of code, 20 test cases have been written, I'm the developer, I go and execute all 20 test cases, guess what happens? Test case number 17 and 18 fail. Normal, that's okay. What do? I pick up the code, I fix 17 and 18 test cases, and then what do you think as a developer I will be doing? What do you think? There were 20 test cases, I executed, 17 and 18 failed, I identified why they failed, I fixed them up, Then after fixing test case number 17 and 18, the reasons because of which they failed, what do you think I'll be doing? Rerun the test. Which ones? 17 and 18, right? Don't tell lies, developers. तुमको अपनी कोड की कसम है. I promise you to the code. Do you execute all or do you only execute 17 and 18? Come on, don't tell me lies. Only 17 and 18. Then no, nothing, it's working. And then when you put it in the production, boom. Do you know that in IT world, you know, in the around about 20 years ago in the world, there was a concept of return gifts in the birthday parties. That return gift concept has started in the IT world also. So when you give a release to the customer gives you defects. Well, fix. This is what you have not done. You have not tested, and that happens because you and I only execute 17 and 18. That is the reason that you have these problems. So take care of it as you go forward. Moving on. So why do we have this? We have this because we want to tell my stakeholders, the development team wants to tell the stakeholders, this is what we have done for your code. This is what we have done for your functionality. This is how we are achieving our targets. This is how we are meeting your quality standards. Quality standard doesn't mean doing testing. Quality standard means that I'm meeting the criteria of your quality that you can use it in production the next very day. That is what is the whole idea, the whole meaning of it. And do remember, the definition of done should change over a period of time. If it doesn't change, you have a static definition of done, or you are not aware what a definition of done actually means in life for you. Going on. So should I define a definition of done at a story level, at a bug level, at a release level, or at sprint level? What do you think? Where should we define the definition of done? All? Good. Can you show it to me in your organization? I don't mind, I will stay back for a Monday. I'll come back and see if you have it for all. That means you need a different definition of done for a story, because bug is a different criteria, release is a different concept, sprint is a different concept. In short, you should be in a position to show me 4 and then show me compliance on all 4. I'm sure you are going to escort me to the airport tomorrow. Don't come, please. We have enough trouble already. You don't add trouble here. So this is exactly, and if you ask me, you need definition of done on all 4. Now, going on, I'm introducing one more new character in this game. And that character is called acceptance criteria. I love this guy. A lot of people have a confusion that definition of done is equal to acceptance criteria. So what is this? Where it is validated? Who defines? What is the relationship between DOR and DOD? Well, definition of acceptance criteria is your functional requirement. Definition of done is a quality standard. Meeting a definition of done, you cannot meet a definition of done if your acceptance criteria has not been satisfied. That's point blank. In fact, in every definition of done, your first bullet point is meets the acceptance criteria. If that itself has not been met, everything else is false. So whether you do code reviews, you do integration testing, you do TDD, BDDs of the world, it really doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And this has been defined by whom? By the product owner? Guys, you should not keep my session next time after lunch. Huh? Guys are not even participating. What do you think? Who should define it? It's a joint decision between the development team and the product owner. And guess what? What is the role of the Scrum Master in all of that? I think we all talk about impediments in Scrum and Agile. According to me, the biggest impediment in Agile is a guy called Scrum Master. How many of you are Scrum Masters here? Nobody wants to put well impediment. And how many times do you update Jira for your team? Be honest. Achha, she asked more trouble. More trouble. Okay. So that is what we have. Moving on. So talking of acceptance criteria, it defines a boundary of your user stories. Boundary is the functionality that your user story needs to demonstrate. It has got nothing to do with definition of done. It has got nothing to do with your code reviews, unit testing, and everything. And again, let me tell you, your acceptance criteria acts like your test cases for your stories, test cases for your requirements. So pay attention to it. So that's the new extra criteria that we have, or the new extra kid on the block. Moving on. So what are the keys for success while doing this? When you have definition done, it's a bond between the team. You know, your team gets bonded. You have a common goal. You have a common enemy. You have a common target to worry about. It communicates with your stakeholders that this is where we are, this is how much we have done, this is what we have not done. When you say creating transparency, now that's the part of creating the transparency, and it keeps your team focused on what to do. Now, I know a lot of us, we do this daily stand-up, daily scrum, whatever you call it. And the earlier versions of Scrum Guide always say, ask those 3 beautiful questions. What did you do yesterday? What did you do today? And what are you going to do? It was like, what fight did you have with your wife yesterday? How are you going to fight today? Or how are you going to make up today? And what are the impediments in that? For unmarried people, it's the girlfriend, to how to find a girlfriend, which one did I do? So it's all common here, all common. Don't worry. And for men, it is a wife. For the wife, it's the husband. It's everything equal. Don't worry. We are all equal. So it helps you to keep the team focused. Now, this is what I would recommend you to think about, that within a story, your definition of done is something different. Within a release, your definition of done is something different. In the release to the production, something different. And within a sprint, its life is different. You need actually different levels of definition of done at different intervals. You cannot have one size that fits all. Don't go and paint the town red. Please, for God's sake, don't paint the town red. Every day you don't eat the same food. Though, you know, I was having a very interesting discussion. I've always believed, you know, when you, do you have Amazon or anything equivalent in Nepal? I don't know. And when you buy something, can you return the goods? You can, right? So in a marriage, and do you think marriage is a product? Or a service? Yeah? It is, right? And if you don't like it, you can be giving it back. Why not? No, it is accepted. Divorces happen. So my point is right. That is about the product. That is about the product. It's all about it. If you buy a Rolls-Royce Phantom, you can't expect a Maruti 800 to be working like that. So don't compare. And, you know, like when you buy a product, you do something called, your customers tell you in Agile to do POC, no? Proof of concept. In marriage, proof of concept is possible. If I don't have a girlfriend, my arranged marriage or something of that, is it possible? It is. Nowadays, the world is living in relationships. So what I'm telling you is nothing different. It's about how you think about it. Your thinking has to be powerful to attract the game, what we are talking about here. So different levels require different definitions of done. Please don't have one size that fits all. The moment you have one size that fits all, somewhere or the other, the failure is going to happen. So be careful about it as you go forward. Moving on very quickly. So who should define the definition of done? Ideally, a definition of done is defined at an org level, at a company level. If your company is not defining it, or your company doesn't have a standard for it, then the relevant Scrum team should define it. But if your organization already has a definition of done, then that's where it is. So the role will be the development team. They have to agree with the product owner how they're going to deliver quality. And this particular meeting gets facilitated by the Scrum Master. So 2 main roles, the product owner and the development team. And ideally, if you have an org level statement on definition of done, then better utilize it. That is how it should be, and that's what the Scrum Guide also tells you to do it. Now, when should you define the definition of done? Well, it should be defined before you even start your estimation and sprint planning. Because it's an input to your estimation. If your definition of done is a longer character, if you have 20 activities, then all those 20 activities have to be done, then you have to plan for it, you have to estimate for it. And that is the reason definition of done is one of the biggest inputs for estimation, other than understanding the story, because you need to know how much we can deliver, how much we can do. And to do that, then how much time or effort is required. Should we define the complete definition of done upfront? The answer is no. You never define definition of done 100% on day one. And if you define it on day one, I guarantee you, you will never implement it. You will never implement it because it's too difficult. It has to gradually evolve, and it should be updated during the retrospectives, as I said. That's the event where you should do it. So definition of done should be agreed by the team, written down, rigorously followed. Definition of done reflects the maturity of the team. So as your team becomes more mature, as your team grows, as your power grows, as you understand the product, as you understand each other, if you and I are a part of the team, we understand each other, we understand our strengths and weaknesses, we understand Agile, we understand product, we understand how things are working, we understand what our stakeholders are looking, then your definition of done has to mature. So don't define the most classical definition of done over the first day. No, not required. You involve the product owner, because ultimately a product owner has to sign off your definition of done. That, okay, you're meeting my quality criteria, I'm happy about it. And as I said, it evolve the definition of done by inspect and adapt. That is in your retrospective. Utilize a retrospective, a part of retrospective, to think, should we go back and touch base with our definition of done? Is there something that I need to do about it? Think about it. If nothing good, if everything is hunky-dory, just move on. Next. So one of the ideas of, like, if you are doing a definition of done for a story, then this is what I would have got it. Code written, unit test passed, sufficient negative test cases written. Write more negative test cases than positive. Remember, your 80% of your code is always written to prevent a defect from happening. So always negative test cases are more important. Code is refactored, code is reviewed. Now refactoring, my friend from Bangladesh was talking about extreme programming. That's where the concept comes in from. So ensure that your code is always getting refactored, code is reviewed, or better still do pair programming. Again, a concept that comes from extreme programming, pair programming. Coding standards are met, continuous integration, TDD, BDD, CI, CD pipeline, the DevOps part of it. Acceptance criteria met, unit test, UAT passed. Last but not the least, any necessary documentation that is needed, required, do it for that particular story. Now, I also have one very interesting point, that whenever you write a story, whenever you develop a product, we typically have a concept where you have to develop documentation. Now, when do I develop a documentation? Do I have a documentation sprint? Can I have that? If you do it, then that's like a waterfall. So where do I put my documentation then? Can I put it as a part of my definition of done? The answer is yes. So your documentation, if any, like it could be your product manual, user manual, error manual, operational manual, whatever it may be, it should also get upgraded, it should get updated, modified, enhanced, sprint by sprint by sprint. That is how you and I should be thinking about. And remember, as I said, that's just a start. So, no, go back, please. So this is at a story. Now this is at a sprint level. Non-functional requirements are being met. Now do remember, not every story will have a non-functional requirement. But at a sprint level, when I have 10 stories put together, there may be a requirement of performance testing. There may be a requirement of volume testing, stress testing, portability, operability. All those utilities that are required, they can come in. The product increment is accepted by the product owner before the sprint has been done. So you can also have definition of done at a sprint level. Going next, we'll talk about the release level next. So that is where the release is. You're talking of release communication, end user documentation, bill of material, training the people, installation, legal, regulatory, and other approvals required. All these have to be a part of your game. If you have to make a release, then all these have to be a part of the game. And if you're following some ISO standards and you have a CISO, Chief Security Officer within the organization, they will be interested in all of this as you go forward. You also have to prove at the release level that all new, say individually a story may be working beautifully, but when I integrate, does it meet? Does it work? That is what you and I will be able to prove it together as you go forward. So what I'm trying to help you understand is definition of done has to be at different levels. Don't have one definition of done. Unfortunately, the Scrum Guide does not give any recommendation on this. I'm not saying Scrum Guide is wrong. Scrum Guide said, this is what it is. Now it's up to you and me to interpret and take it forward to the next level. Going forward, coming. Now what happens when you have a weak or a missing definition of done? There will be delays. Your releases may be postponed. There is a risk that undone work will cause lack of transparency. There will be issues. And the impact is that you're working with a weak definition of done, and it will add to more technical debt. It will add more to the technical debt as you go forward. So you will have more challenge. Remember, the product owner is interested in quantity. Give me more and more functionality. As a development team, you be worried about quality. Because if quality is not there, quantity over a period of time will suffer because those defects will come back and haunt you. And to fix those defects, then you'll have to give time. So now you have anyway challenges. So focus on quality, then quantity. But unfortunately, the world that you and I live, we focus on quantity. Even the management is interested. What is the velocity? How much have you increased? Velocity is the worst metrics to ever track in life. And if you want, I remember, very interestingly, I was doing a particular training in an organization, and then it was coming down to the lunchtime, and then the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, walked in, and he listened to me for 15 minutes, and then he said, Mr. Kabra, I have a request for you. I said, yes, sir. What can I do? He said, from tomorrow, I need a quick and a dirty. Remember two words that he used. I need a quick and a dirty solution to increase my gross margin by 20%. Quick and dirty. And those were the only two words that I focused. I said, sir, I have a solution that you can implement from today only, not tomorrow. He said, what is that? I said, reduce everyone's salary, including yours, by 20%. Gross margin will improve automatically. He started laughing. He said, what are you saying? I said, you asked for a quick and a dirty. I gave you one. It is quick and it is dirty also. I said, if you really want improvements, do it the right way. We all are looking for shortcuts in our life. And in product development, there is no shortcut. And if there is a shortcut, it's going to come and haunt you. It is going to haunt you. Moving on. So this is what I say. If I was a coder, if I was a Scrum Master, I would be happy with this definition of done in my first sprint. I'm again talking in my first sprint. Remember, I want you to look at this particular picture. If you actually notice from a caterpillar how it moves to become a butterfly and all that, look at that concept. It evolves. It evolves. Similarly, your definition of done has to evolve. You cannot define the best one together. So all unit testing passing, my code has been reviewed, code has been completed, checked in, my acceptance criteria are getting satisfied. Good, I'm happy. I don't want to do anything beyond that. But if this is the only definition of done I have ever in my life, then I'm going to be in trouble. So as I mature, as my team matures, I need better definitions of done, and that is what the next slide will tell. I've improved my definition of done. I've gone to a matured state because I've learned more. I understand Agile better. I understand my team better. I understand my product better. I understand my product owner better. I understand my stakeholders better. I understand my release cycles. I've understood the last 3 cycles of my releases, what has gone wrong. And all of that can get added here. So it's all about creating the maturity in the game. Next. And that is all. Any time we have for questions, I don't know. So there is no time. Choice, as I said, available over a coffee. But that means you have to give me a coffee. Yeah? That is what it means. So that was an indirect message. All right, and there is one more slide there after that. Just a second. Oops. See, Amit not meeting my definition of done. He closed before the Agile, before the sprint got over. You know, that's what happens. Scrum Master goes and closes the sprint in Jira. Now you can do nothing about it. So that is what happens. So those are my coordinates, in case you want it. And I'm giving you my telephone number, but don't ever call me. Okay? Because I don't pick up calls. You drop me. No, I don't have a concept of missed call. You drop me a message. I will call you back and I'll touch base with you. Because I do a lot of traveling. I do a lot of trainings, workshops. So I don't pick up calls. That's my email ID, and you can connect me on the LinkedIn. I do write a lot of blogs and a lot of things that I do. So that's all from my side. Thank you all. Appreciate your time and patience.
Thank you.